Hey, somebody needs to change the tire. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. I thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. The Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. has asked for Andy Andrews books. I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach their goals, I need your help. What we're able to do to make that easier for you is for every $12 donation you make, a hardback book will be sent to the Veterans Administration for veterans, their families, and for the employees of the VA. That $12 will cover the cost of the book, the shipping, and handling. Or you can purchase any one of these awesome Books for Veterans t-shirts, and your purchase will include a book sent in your name. So whether you can make this a personal gift or a corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to your website purchase or done as an individual entry or in conjunction with a Books for Veterans t-shirt. Thank you very much for your support. Observations and answers. That's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. And I'm excited about this today. You saw Doug Terreson a few weeks ago. And when I have these really cool guests, really cool friends, I'll say, who do you know? Who do you know that would be perfect for The Professional Noticer? And Doug said, right off the bat, he said, Dr. Amanda VanDerHeyden. I said, okay, maybe I don't know her. He said, well, Andy, and Doug and I teased, like, he said, Andy, you're not smart enough to know her. Like, oh, okay, a smart person, huh? And so we have her here. She's a policy advisor, a thought leader who actively conducts research focused on improving learning outcomes for students. And she's developed models of academic screening widely used in schools, including the creation of spring math. All right. And she's published 10 books, over 100 scholarly articles. And we're going to find out all about her and why she lives in Fairhope, Alabama. So please welcome Dr. Amanda VanDerHeyden.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can I call you Amanda? Doctor?
Please call me. What? Nobody calls me doctor. Just call me Amanda.
All right. Well, I'm so glad you're here. And
Thank you.
You and Doug and Edie are buddies, obviously.
Yeah, we go way back. Yeah, It's funny how a lifetime goes by, right?
It is amazing.
Yes,
I mean, because, Doug and Edie raised their kids right alongside Polly and me. Mm-hmm. And then now they're all adults and out doing stuff.
It's so cool watching them do their own thing. I know they have outstanding children. I run into them every once in a while, and it's no surprise to me because I watched them, sort of from a distance get raised.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful parents and wonderful community members and friends, yeah.
Now, how did you get involved in, and I'm not even going to act like I know what you do.
Okay.
And so
nobody knows what I do.
I looked you up. I read stuff about you. I looked at lists of your articles, list of your books, list of where you've spoken. I mean,
I've been prolific, huh? Busy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, part of me goes, why don't I know her? And then the other part of me goes, I've read all this and I still don't understand what she does. Yeah. So do you mind?
No, it's always hard for me to say what I do. And I think, I like living in all the rooms of my house. So what's nice about coming back to this part of the world for me is I can just be myself. And mostly that's been raising my children.
'Cause you're a mom.
Right. I'm a mom. And my kids are older now. So this is a transition time for me. I'm going to be fully empty nested in August when my daughter goes to Auburn. And I'm kind of excited about it. I feel more ready for it than I thought I would a few years ago. And in part because I can see my children are ready for it. But I've always worked. I've never not worked. I've always liked doing my own thing. And I just have had this kind of burning passion to help kids get better results in classrooms. I mean, we spend so much money in this country in the name of delivering education to children, and we should do better. We should do better than we do, and I think we can. And it's been fun for me to find the soft spots in education and help improve what we do in the name of instruction and help teachers deliver better instruction in real time. And that's just, I still dream about it. I still wake up and want to solve that problem. So I just keep going.
How did so where did you go to school?
I did my undergrad at Tulane,
Okay.
and my son's at Tulane now. He'll graduate after next year. And then I went to LSU for my PhD.
I'm sorry?
To LSU.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I
No,
know.
I didn't mean, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I meant, I'm sorry you went to LSU.
No, I kind of gathered, but yeah, the wrong tiger, right? But yeah, I went to LSU and had wonderful training there. And I've been lucky.
So when you got out of school, when you're this young kiddo getting out of school, what were you qualified to do at that point?
Well, with a bachelor's degree, not much. I took a job in New Orleans in a mental health center on the West Bank of New Orleans in Marada, Louisiana. And we were sort of the hospitalization entry point for kids who did not have private insurance. So Medicaid or no insurance, they came through us. And what I noticed as I worked there, this very naive, sheltered kid, is I thought, oh my goodness, most of this is solvable. And it's not the children who really need medication, it's the parents. Like the parent, it's their environment. Right. This is a very predictable outcome based on the environment that they're being raised in. So I began to become aware that I needed to get some additional training and, how life makes sense through the rearview mirror. But the person who ran that clinic, he was the head psychologist, introduced me to the person who became my major professor at LSU, who is one of the best in the field, really? Joe Witt. And Joe Witt taught me about treatment integrity, which was this idea
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You say he's one of the best in the field.
He's one of the best
field?
in the field. Psychology.
Okay,
yeah,
psychology.
I have a PhD in psychology. My specialty area is school psychology.
Okay.
Yeah. Schools are like a world unto themselves.
Oh, without
they're their own ecology. They are their own culture. And if you want to make a difference in schools, it's a people business. You have to understand how to build trust and who talks to who and
Isn't that true of
layers.
everything? Isn't that true of everything? My son works on a boat, a fishing boat, and he had a guy working with him for a while that's no longer working with him because he told me, I said, why did you get rid of, and he said, well, he needs to understand that we're not in a fishing business, we're in a people business.
There you go.
I thought, okay, buddy, you got it.
It's true. Yeah, as I get older, I think I appreciate that a lot more. You know, you can know all the technical details of how to do something that you are a long way away from being able to pull it off.
You know, I have a company, Creating Measurable Results, where I work with companies. And when we first started, I was nervous about not understanding the industries. Mm-hmm. But then when I realized the best way to compete is with your culture, and that's with your people. And when I began to understand, okay, I understand people, so I can help here. Mm-hmm. And
those are the leaders I admire. There's a great guy in my world who actually died last year. His name was Aubrey Daniels, and he was a psychologist, but he was masterful about that. And he actually studied it and wrote about it. And he's a behavioral psychologist. So what he was able to do is work with companies to deliver better results and then operationalize some of what he did. I cannot stand in my world like an edge of celebrity who has all the answers but can't tell you how to do it.
right.
Right.
And that's what you and I were talking about off camera. We were talking about Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Well, Dave is a great friend of mine and a great friend of the show's. And you had I thought a cool observation about Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a little starstruck that you know him because I just admire his ability to he interweaves a personal narrative. I just heard him on Craig Groeschel's podcast talking about leadership. But what he does to me that's so masterful is he makes it doable for other people. So you can listen to what he talks about, and he can tell personal stories about it, but he's masterful at specifying these are the active ingredients. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stand a leader who says, I'm such a great leader, look at this great thing that I did, and then they can't really tell you how they did it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think I hesitate to say this, but I feel like you'll agree, even though I might get mail. I am not a big fan of a lot of the leadership training.
Oh, it's fluff.
I just think, okay.
Yeah. It's benefited me in my life to have been a researcher and to still be a researcher because we have to specify what we're studying.
Right.
Right? That's the independent variable. And if you can't specify that in a way that's replicable, then you can't study it. You can't reach any conclusions. Well, that helps you when you're a trainer. You have to be able to specify what is it that you're training somebody to do. And I feel like that's the thing that Ramsey does so well.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of it, I think, is the idea that that everything rises and falls on leadership. Mm-hmm. Everything rises and falls on 10% of your company.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just on the face of it, that's preposterous.
Yeah. But it does follow that the leader is responsible.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, I find so many times the leaders don't understand the power of culture.
Yeah.
And it puts the whole company at a disadvantage because, speed of the leader equals speed of the pack.
Yeah. And let me tell you, in education, the way this usually happens, so figure the superintendent's the leader, okay? Most superintendents don't stay long enough in a system to see any of the fruits or the negative consequences of the very things they instituted under their leadership. So it's this very slippery career of, the accountability never catches up with the leader. So I love those superintendents in the world.
Sounds like college football coaches.
Yeah, right? I mean, I love the superintendents of the world who stay long enough to be accountable to the results that their leadership has delivered.
Right.
And my favorite of all time is Cal Baker from Arizona. He's just one of the most remarkable educational leaders I've ever known. And the guy who succeeded him after a very long career is John Carruth. They're both just magnificent.
Have you heard of Andrew Marada?
Mm-mm.
I
don't think so.
I want to introduce you guys. Andrew was he is a high school principal up in New York.
Okay.
And for 15 years, he was also Division I college basketball official.
Okay.
And so, I mean, he officiated some of the biggest games with the biggest coaches. And he works with schools now all over the country.
Oh.
And he is very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Interesting.
In fact, I'll give you one of his books.
Oh, okay. He's written a book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
cool.
written several.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So you guys would get a kick out of him.
Yeah.
So you have tell me about Spring Math.
Oh, my life's work.
That's your life's work.
Yeah, what's funny about that is I started with academic jobs. I took a faculty job at LSU Health Sciences in New Orleans and then followed my then spouse at the time to do his residency in Arizona and did the best professional work of my life as a leader in a district there. And then I took a job. He followed me to University of California in Santa Barbara. And then in 2007, I'm 8 months pregnant with my second child. We moved to Fairhope. And it was a great place to raise children. But at that time,
Fairhope.
I'm telling you, it was sort of like that. Like I said.
Yeah, why Fairhope?
Okay.
How did Fairhope even show up on your...
It was this systematic, okay? I said to my spouse at the time, who were very cordial, he's a lovely local doctor. I said, this is too hard. We're in California. Everybody who loves us is on the other side of the world, it feels like.
Right.
So let's just take them out.
Because everybody knows there is no love in California. Go ahead.
There is no love in California. I think I can say that out loud. I'm willing to go on record with that. Anyway, we just sort of put the dots on the map of where our family was located and drew a circle. And the job that came up for him was at Spring Hill Emergency Department. And it was a good fit for him. And I said, let's follow you this time and I'll figure it out. And that is what happened. And I mean, for me, those were some of the best years of my life. And I wrote 8 books in 8 years. I was still actively running research, serving on boards. I just had to get on airplanes to go do it.
Yeah.
It's funny because in those days, I would pull through Carline, and if I'd had a shower and put on a little makeup, my kids would go, "Are you going to D.C. today?"
Really?
And yeah, that's how bad it was. But yeah, I built what became Spring Math in my little home office in Rock Creek. And
So explain Spring Math.
so my work has always been about finding kids who are in trouble faster, and especially patterns of kids, because I guess some of the work that I've done is around screening, but also...
Okay, hang on just a second.
Yeah.
I heard you say something I want to call attention to.
Okay.
You said your work has always revolved around finding kids who need help faster.
Right.
You know, there is a little-known statistic in Alabama
Yeah.
that the prison system here
Yep.
determines how many beds they're going to need 15 years from now, according to third grade reading scores.
That is true nationally. That is a very robust finding. And that is the school to prison pipeline is what it's called. That is very true.
Wow.
And the thing is, it's totally fixable. It's low-hanging fruit. This is the thing that made me sort of like fired up in Marada, Louisiana when I was a baby. And I just thought there has to be a smarter way. I mean, if these children could read and do math, they would have a shot in life. And I
Right.
still believe that.
Sure.
And all kids can learn. So for what happened for a long time is when children weren't succeeding in school, the system would say, what's wrong with the child? But what we understand from the scientific world is that learning is the most predictable outcome of highly effective instruction. So when a child in front of
Wow. I want to write that down.
you, well, Fred
Say that
Keller
again.
sort of said it, but I paraphrase him, and he said it in 1968. But I say learning is the most predictable outcome of highly effective instruction. It's it.
I mean, I always figure, hey, if they haven't learned, has anybody talked?
Right. So you get it. But here's what we've done in this country for years. We go, child is not learning. What's wrong with the child? It's the
Right.
wrong question. When any human is not learning, first question is, what's wrong with the instruction? And instruction in this country is political. And it's very, like in math, we're going through the math wars now, just like we went through the reading wars 20 years ago. And
It's political and it's boring.
it's terrible. And
It's
children should not be sort of the sacrificial lambs in that process. I mean, they don't deserve to be unwittingly exposed to unconsented experimentation by adults who want to conduct thought experiments. It's not okay. I mean, it is a basic human right to me, and especially for the money that we spend in this country with compulsory education, that all children should graduate with proficient skills in reading and math.
You know, it's like I spoke to the economic impact bunch of people or something of Alabama for Yellowhammer News 7 or 8 years ago. And I was the last speaker at the convention. The governor spoke. Every congressperson, both senators, and they had a panel of the 10 most successful business people in the state there. And then I spoke last. Well, I stayed and watched just because it was Alabama, you know?
Right. You're invested.
And so the one thing that really blew me away, and I even had the guts to say it at the end, I said, I've watched these people come and go, and they come in and they do their 30 minutes and then they leave and they don't even hear the people before them or after them. Mm-hmm. And have you noticed they're all saying the same thing, that to have better education in Alabama, we're going to need more money for education. And the economy, we need more money for education, more money for education. I said, I've lived in this state my entire life. Mm-hmm. And as far as I can remember, back to when God was a boy, we've been saying more money for education.
As though that's the
and
solution.
We've gotten more money for education.
That's right.
And our state motto, our state educational motto is still, thank God for Mississippi.
Right. I know. Well, Mississippi's beating us now. I mean, they've gotten a lot of attention for their improvements in reading, which is great evidence that it's not about dollars. Dollars alone will not raise. I mean, there's a threshold, a minimal threshold you have to have, right? But beyond that minimal threshold, it's how you spend that money.
Yeah.
And I've seen so much waste in education. That gets me a little fired up, I have to say. I've actually done some research in this area. You can get more with less spend.
Sure.
All you got to do is be willing to do what works over what is politically expedient or people like.
Well, more money just on the surface of it doesn't make sense. Right. I mean, because if you have a church, if you have this great church, and all of a sudden there's misbehavior with the staff and embezzlement with the staff, and the church starts, leaking people, and and then if some millionaire says, it's a shame about this church. Yeah. I'm going to give them $1 million. Well, you know what you got there? You got a bad church with $1 million to spend.
That's right. Okay, in my world, that's Bill Gates, and I mean this in a nice way because I know he is a very generous man and he has done a lot of good in a lot of other spaces. But in my world, it seems that there is a pattern that things that are funded by the Gates Foundation in education are just about bound to be things that don't work. It's an interesting thing to observe. But if you need examples of how money doesn't buy the outcomes in education, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
There's another one in New Jersey. It's been over a decade now, but there were a couple of guys, leaders, tech people, I think, who were going to give all kinds of money to the New Jersey schools and change the outcomes. And of course, that was all over the news. The follow-up should have been that it didn't work, and it didn't.
It didn't.
It never does. Just giving, that's a great way to say it. It's $1 million with the same bad leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So explain spring math. Okay,
so spring math, I mean, really and truly, I started building it when my children were babies, but I did it based on the work that I was doing, screening in schools and helping schools identify and deliver intervention, but really became prevention. Because what happens you talked about the school to prison pipeline. What used to happen with those children is we could have told you who they were based on kind of early reading skill and language skills, like 4 or 5 years old, really. And then if you track them over time and you do nothing, the kids who we really knew were in trouble early on are way further behind the kids that were doing okay. And it kind of it makes like an alligator pattern with the graph, the Matthew effect, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And kids used to not get identified as needing academic assistance until they were about 3rd grade for a variety of reasons, not just structural. And but as a result, this whole window of early intervention was missed. So kids had to have this experience of failure from, say, kindergarten until about grade 3. And then the help that they got tended to be delivered via special education. And the outcomes for those children were not good. So, and part of that was because we had this wait to fail model. So my work has been around this process called response to intervention, later called multi-tiered systems of support, because we have to give everything a complicated name. Sure. But it involves looking for problems. It's sort of an ongoing system of academic screening, identifying if there's a class-wide problem, which there almost always is in math, and then delivering class-wide intervention as 15 minutes a day, which provides the second screening gate. It helps you get much more accurate about who's really in trouble, number one. But number two, it very rapidly improves the performance of all kids. So you get this protective benefit, costs you 15 minutes a day, and it produces a data set that you can then harvest to figure out who really needs like ICU level intervention in academics. And what we find, like the little district in Arizona that I did this work in back between 2002 and 2005, the first year their learning disability rate went from 6% of their population to 3.5%. And they went from middle of the pack in math proficiency to rank order position 1.
And nobody quit drinking out of plastic straws or anything?
I mean, there was none of, but what was lovely is I had Cal Baker at the helm who empowered me to do what would work. And he had the leadership skills to give me that space and that bandwidth to operate. But that work became...
clear the area around you so that you could.
Right. I'm pretty sure John went ahead of me and asked principals to hear me out, give it a try, And at the end of the day, that work made it into federal law, some of it, and some that we had done in Louisiana. But we were able to, show these are the active ingredients. This is how you do it. And all of that led to spring math because a lot of what we needed to fix a math problem didn't exist. So I had to create it, had to figure out, okay, well, how do you assess that? And so I built the assessment generator. The first time I built that took 3 years. Second time took another 3 years. Those things don't happen overnight. And all of this eventually led to this, fully articulated system of prevention and improvement in math. We're widely used. We're all over the U.S. and Canada now, headed to some other countries in the fall for them, which will be January for us. And
you have presented this in 36 states and in Singapore, China, Portugal, Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a fun career. I mean,
But that tells me...
Not so much in Alabama, I have to say.
Shock.
Can't be an expert in your own backyard. Well, Alabama could do this too. I mean, they could.
What if we just had more money?
By the way, we are the least expensive thing on the market. Our system we charge $9 per kid per year. Roughly. I mean, I think it's $9.25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the beautiful thing about this to me is that if it works in Arizona, it'll work in Alabama. If it'll work in Alabama, it's something they need in Portugal.
Well, we're going into year 10. We're not untested. We're not new.
Right.
Everywhere we go, we have replicated those results. We publish our data. We're the highest rated system according to various policy groups on academic screening. We get the highest ratings. So we're not like an untested idea.
Right.
Yeah. Now this has been fun for me to run an ed tech company and figure that out and think about how to be a more effective leader. And I've learned a lot. I mean, some of Dave Ramsey's advice about not being a treadmill leader, which was my style for a long time, just outwork everybody on the planet.
Right.
You can only do that so far.
Yeah.
And we're in that place where we've scaled enough. And it's been fun for me. It's just a new skill set. And understanding technology and the future of technology and artificial intelligence, which is super fun for me. The process of AI is not that magical, actually. The methodology has existed in statistics for a long time, but the automation of it and taking humans out of it is what is impressive.
Because if I've got this right, it's not really intelligence.
No.
It's just a huge search engine.
That's right. And it's
a hugely effective search engine.
It's basically running automated, repeated, something that's called regression. I think I was laughing when you asked me how I knew Doug, and I said, well, the first time I met him, I'm pretty sure I explained data to him because I did not know my audience.
Yeah.
But then I think, he's like, oh, kindred spirit. We speak the same
data
language.
king.
So Doug could explain regression to you. I mean, that's what he used to make his forecasts. And it's all based in correlation, right? And patterns that we can think, humans are predictable. Systems are predictable. But the thing about AI that's cool is it takes the need for the human to run the analysis out of that process, right? That's sort of turned over to the machine. There's efficiency there.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. It's really not. It's just repeating these prediction models. And because you can repeat it and automate it, you can do it so much faster, and you can do it on bigger data sets, so you can discover more robust findings.
You simply must meet one of my friends. She's got to meet you. Her name is Dr. Barb Rimasa.
Okay.
And Dr. Barb created an industry. She, ITAM, IAITAM, International Association of Technology, somebody or another, and but it's...
You got cool friends.
Well, I do. It's because I'm just this numbskull that just kind of talks and notices stuff.
That's not true.
But Dr. Barb, you remind me of Dr. Barb because you are so passionate and you can talk, and
it takes over.
I can look at you and think, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, no. Well, I will say, going back all the way to Arizona, and I've always looked younger than I am because I'm tiny, I think. And until people get close
it's probably
to me,
a good time to say, you're 84.
Yeah.
84.
Yeah, not that old.
I mean, I think you look good for 84.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. But you can imagine when I was, 30, I looked like I was 12. And so I'm in this district in Arizona telling these teachers what to do. And I saw the writing on the wall that we were not going to need the number of special ed teachers in a year that we were employing because we were preventing the need for special ed.
Right.
We were having kids be so successful in general education, they didn't need special education. That's the dream, right? And we did it.
That is the dream.
Well, when I saw that was happening, I went to Cal and John and said, we're going to have a problem. And I don't want you to take the money away. So I want you to reallocate that money to support what we're doing because it's working. And they said, we need you to come present that to the board. And that was my first time presenting to a board. And boards are very formal, and everybody has a microphone and whatever. So I'm very intimidated. And I start presenting these data, and the enthusiasm took over, I guess, that passion. And at the end, they approved what I asked for. And this guy came up to me. I can't even remember his name now. And he said, well, honey, your enthusiasm, your passion is just incredible. I was so offended. I'm like, what about my data?
What about the data?
Did you see the data? Yeah, but I've always had that. Yeah, that passion.
But anytime somebody can mix that education with that personality, because you've got to lead people to take part in this. How do you, I see how it spreads. I see how it gets started and spreads, but how do you attract the attention of China?
I don't know. I've never had a website of my own. I've never had a machine of my own. When I left academia in 2007 to have my baby girl who just graduated.
And graduated from
ASMS, the School of Math and Science. Yeah,
I know, that kills me.
I know, so proud of her. And the parents I admired in this, there's so many great parents in Fairhope. Even the ones I didn't know closely, but the good ones, I could pick them out and I could learn from them and watch how they operated. Sure. And one of the patterns I saw is I noticed that great parents seem to be willing to figure out what each child needed and make sure that that's what they got. They got what they needed.
Yeah.
And in my daughter's case, she went K-9 to Bayside. And it was a lovely experience for her until it wasn't. And it was hard because I loved that little school and I was on their board for 8 years and my son went there. But I had to be willing to find out what she needed. And so we did. And she did a little summer camp up at UAB. And I just discovered that she really had this passion for science and math. And she needed to be in a place where she felt free to pursue that and that it wouldn't hurt her social status right? And so anyway, her nickname at ASMS was Barbie.
Really?
Which I got a kick out of. And she was not the highest performing kid in that school, which was good for her. And anyway, she's going to be pre-med at Auburn in their honors college. And it's perfect for her.
Wow.
It's just perfect for her. And now I'm off track. I don't remember why I was telling you all of that.
Well, let me ask you this. I appreciate so much you being here. How can we help you?
How can you help me? Tell people to use Spring Math. It will raise their math scores. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yes.
we'll put all the information on the show notes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And I want to introduce you to a couple of my buddies, including Dave.
Cool. Well, that's really
So-
cool. I have to say I'm a little starstruck by that.
Yeah, well-
of course, I have read your books too.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All right.
years ago. I had no idea there were U-boats in the. I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
news to me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's I love things that are there if you know where to look. Because that's been, people still, it's a new thing to them. And you can find it real easy on Google, but you got to know to look.
Right. Are you working on your next book?
I am. I'm working on actually 3 right now.
Oh, you're one of those.
I'm trying to figure out which one to push on in.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Water them a little bit. See which one grows.
Yeah. See which ones I'm most interested in at the time and what flows,
Yeah.
So,
There's nothing like having to finish something that you're done with, but you
Yeah.
still got to finish it.
yeah, that's
Right.
exactly right. Because you're done with
Yeah.
it in your mind long before you get it out on
Yes.
paper.
Yeah.
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 And sometimes people like me just find to live with it in their mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, me too. Yeah, I pretty much don't write book chapters anymore for other people. Unless I did one last year, but I hadn't in years because it's not fun for me. Somebody else's agenda. It's, and I won't write another book unless I just really want to.
Yeah, see, that's me too. What really impressed me was when you said 8 books in 8 years, because they, when I started, Traveler's Gift hit really big, and so now they're wanting a book a year,
Ooh.
and I'm like, I could write a book a year if you just want a story. I said, but I actually got to learn something to write what I write. So
That's true.
anytime I've gone into those 3-year stretches of doing, a 3-year book contract or a 3-book contract, I've always thought, I wish I didn't do this.
That would stress me out. The idea of you're committed to the next 2
Yeah.
before you finish the first one. I
Yeah.
like my freedom. I like my autonomy to choose.
When I wrote The Traveler's Gift, it was a standalone book. 51 publishers turned it down, and
Is that right?
yeah. And so
That's a great story.
yeah, so when it finally got out there, and Good Morning America tagged it as one of the 5 books you should read in your lifetime,
That's great.
I was like a 20-game winner without a contract.
That's
And
great.
So it's like, you want
Yeah.
to write some more books.
That's
And
a
so
sweet moment.
Yeah, so I signed a 3-book deal, but I almost immediately thought, I don't really know how I wrote the first one. So now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And it was probably 4 or 5 books before I really kind of felt like I had a grasp on what I was doing.
Oh, really? Do you use the same process for every book?
No.
No, me either. I don't. First of all, nobody reads my books. Let me just say that. It's like a handful of people compared to. But it is fun to hear about your process.
Early morning works better than late night for me.
Yeah.
But it's, I do a lot of, I guess, colloquial research. There's a lot of sitting around with Dave Ramsey over a campfire
Oh, yeah.
and
There you go.
talking and, stopping and grabbing my phone and writing down, something like I'm going to go back and write down the learning thing.
Yeah.
I've
I'll
forgotten
send
the
it to
quote
you.
already.
I say it all the time.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. Well, it's funny because I've had 2 writing experiences in my life that were sublime, So I'm always like looking for that holy grail again. And one of them was I helped write the book, but it's a specific chapter in the book. And I was out in Telluride. I used to have a place out there and I'd be there in the summer, And I took my kids to Telluride Academy, went back to my place, and I wrote that whole thing in one sitting. And that was cool. It just felt good.
Yeah.
Like it's what I wanted to write. I had wanted to write it for a long time. And I had another experience like that with an actual book that I wrote in 2 weeks. But every other book has been more painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine are always painful. You see, but I once I understood the process of the Holy Spirit, guiding what I was writing, I was able to relax more into it. But I've had a couple of weird experiences writing. I had I wrote a book called The Lost Choice, and it may be my book that the least number of people have read.
Okay.
And yet some people it's their favorite book. And there's a scene in there, a chapter on the Lusitania, that it takes place on the Lusitania. And when I got through with that chapter, I was in a friend's cabin, and when I got through that chapter, I started crying, and I cried for a while because I was like, I felt like I had been there.
Wow!
It was kind of brutal.
That's pretty cool.
But
pretty amazing.
But I have not gone back, and I wrote that probably 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And I have not gone back and read that chapter since, because I'm almost kind of freaked out by it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I think this phase of my life is about slowing down a little bit and seeing what bubbles up. It's a sweet place to be in life. I got a lot of freedom headed my way, and with my kids being grown.
Right.
And, you're never done with your kids, but
right, sure.
You know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it was fun.
I appreciate so much you coming over. This has given me so many ideas, and I think that people, I think our viewers and our listeners are going to dig into this.
Cool. Good. Yeah. All kids can learn math. There's no such thing as being a math person, not being a math person. Math is just a behavior like any behavior, can be trained.
Okay. You might have to say that to me 3 times for me to believe it, but I hear you.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
All right. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Catnip gummies for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the National Campaign to Abolish Elm Streets. Friend, are you aware that despite there being very few elm trees left in America, there are thousands of elm streets? The elm tree was once one of America's most common, along with the oak and pine, but during the 1930s and 40s, Dutch elm disease hit the American elm and it has not recovered. And that is why so many elm streets exist without actual elm trees anywhere close by. We're now partnering with a famous glue company to change street names all across the United States from Elm to Elmer. The company intends to finance the change in signage and give a year's supply of kindergarten glue to everyone anywhere on an Elmer Street. Send your donations or volunteer to help. That's stickittothetrees.com.